PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to the 15-Minute Mediator podcast. My name is Nancy Gabriel, and I'm the owner of Mediation Around the Table. As a mediator, I help people in conflict come to their own resolution. I do this by facilitating conversations between the parties and asking questions that require them to actually listen to each other. Candidates for mediation are people who are more interested in coming up with solutions than they are in being right. If you think I might be of help to you in your situation, I encourage you to visit my website, mediationaroundthetable.com, and learn more about the services I've been providing to the Southern Nevada community since 2012. Thank you, and stay tuned for the podcast. Hello, everyone. Today's podcast is entitled Meet the Money Mediator, because I like alliteration. And my guest today is Julie Sanchez with Alderus Mortgage. Welcome, Julie. We're going to talk about mortgage forecasts and some of the services you provide. But before we get into that, I just want to tell everyone briefly how you and I met. Do you remember?
Okay. I do.
Okay. We met at a networking group, probably in 2019 is what I'm thinking. And because I know it was before COVID. And this is the thing that impressed me the most about you at the beginning, Julie, and even today, is your follow-up skills. You are so good at reaching out, and you did after that first meeting. We exchanged business cards, and you reached out to me, and we have had a mutually beneficial relationship ever since. So why don't you tell a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Thank you. Well, I do remember that very clearly, and I feel the exact same way about you. We just connected because that's how you are, Nancy. I think I even remember saying, gosh, what better person in your position, for what you do. Yeah, so I do remember that. So I am I call myself a champion mortgage advisor because I advocate for my clients. I help people who want to buy a home get the money. Most people, when they buy their first home or even their second or third home, they don't have cash, right, to buy. So I help them get the financing that's needed, leverage that to help them build some wealth, build some equity, and whatever their goals are in buying a home. That's what I do.
That's wonderful. And I remember years ago, I sent you a couple. They were going through a divorce, and the husband was buying the wife out, and you helped with that process. And then you also helped him buy his own home. And they kept raving about you to me. How did we live without Julie Sanchez? So, and I know you have sent me people conversely that are going through a divorce, and they're reaching out to you, and you're saying, well, if you haven't hired a lawyer yet, you might want to consider mediation. So
exactly. Yeah, it's surprisingly our industries, can really work well together, and there's a good match there. You did mention refinancing, and yes, any kind of financing for residential mortgage is what can help. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to ask you some specific questions about that in a minute, but just tell us a little bit more about how you arrived in Las Vegas and how you got into the business that you're in.
Well, I originally wanted to be a nurse, and that didn't work out because I was on my own and trying to work two jobs, going to school, and it was just very difficult. So I ended up stumbling upon a banking job. So actually the first 9 years of my career was in banking. And then afterwards, I kind of jumped off the cliff into what then in 2005 was the wild, wild west of mortgages. Very much different now, but I never looked back after that. So it just allowed me the ability to help clients, also the ability to be flexible in my work schedule. So it was a good move for me. So some years later, I'm still here, and I still enjoy it.
I'm so impressed by that, and also the route you took from nursing to banking to mortgage and finance is pretty remarkable. You must be very good at math.
I don't know that I would say I'm good at math, but when you think about, people that want to be like first responders or nurses, They are servants. Those are people that take, it takes a special person to do so. And I would think that I had that. So I really do see myself as somebody that really cares about the person that I'm dealing with, not just a number. I want to really help people with their goals. I want to help understand their situation because I guess you could kind of make it similar. Everybody's situation is different, just like everybody's health situation is different. It's not a one size fits all, which is what I found in banking and why I moved into residential mortgage lending.
Well, and also you're a good listener. And like in my field, we not only have to listen to what our clients are telling us, but we have to listen to what they're not saying so that we can figure out how to best help them.
You are so right. Absolutely.
So, Julie, take out your crystal ball for me and tell me what you forecast for mortgage rates and the residential housing market in 2024.
So yes, wish I did have a crystal ball, and I use that a lot. I don't have a crystal ball, but here I like to look at data and facts and trends because we can really learn from history. And there's trends when it comes to the residential mortgage real estate world. So couple of things. I mean, we're having right now, as of today, if you look at this podcast date, as of today, we actually have had a great rally in the bond market. So the bond market is where we get our mortgage interest rates. And so that means we're probably likely going to see interest rates start to come down even more than they have in the past couple of weeks. So they have come down. What does that mean for you as a home buyer, or if you're looking to refinance? That means that's a great thing for you. However, across the nation, we are still having a shortage of homes, meaning there's not enough homes on the market for the people that want to buy. And one of the reasons for that is because the last 10 years, builders stopped building at the pace they were building in. So it created a big shortage. But what didn't stop, Nancy? Population growth. So it didn't stop. And so now we've got millennials and Gen Zs that want to buy. And so we're just having a time right now. What I would say is there's an opportunity right now in the market while the holidays are going on, before we get into the new year. If rates continue to decrease, we're going to see an increase in competition, an increase in values. We're probably going to see people paying over and above very similarly, because remember, demand dictates the price. So that's kind of a nutshell where we're at.
And you answered the question I was about to ask you, which is what happens to property values when interest rates go down? The property values go up.
Exactly, that they will increase. I mean, we saw it in 2020, when we had I call it the blue light special for interest rates, because, we were in the 2s and 3s. It kind of continued a little bit in 2021, but that was an anomaly. That was something that, gosh, if you got in on the fire sale, wonderful. If you didn't, we're likely not going to see, 2s and 3s again, unless something crazy happens, like a major pandemic or something that we haven't seen.
How does a presidential election affect interest rates?
It can affect interest rates up or down. I remember 2016. For the most part, we see elections, impact interest rates in a positive way, but sometimes it can impact it in a negative way. And again, there's so many factors that make up how the interest rate comes about. It's economic reports, it's things that are going on in the world, across, even worldwide economics. So there's so many factors, but a presidential election, it can go either way. It just depends on, again, what the Fed is saying about raising rates, where we are in the economy with inflation. There's so many things. So in 2016, we all thought usually general elections, you can see interest rates maybe go down, but we actually saw the opposite in 2016. So there was just a number of things going. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens now in 2024.
Yeah. So how do you help your clients find that sweet spot? Ooh. And by sweet spot, I mean interest rate versus value of fair market value of a house.
So that's a really great question, but it is difficult to to sort through, because it's when you're a home buyer and you're buying a home for you to live in, it's a difficult position to try to time the market. So I always try to help clients understand how it all works as best that they can understand. I do this every day. It's not something that somebody does every day. So there's a lot
Right.
that goes on with mortgages and the real estate. So if you're buying it as your primary residence, I always recommend that, we just keep an eye on the market. We can't really time it if you're trying to live in it. We all have basic housing needs, and that we need a roof overhead. So sometimes you need to buy a house. And so, the best thing to do is just be educated, understand how do we mitigate things. I try to plan ahead. Obviously, getting pre-approved is going to help you plan even further. And then I listen again for the situation, and then we just work through that together.
And you told me a story recently about a prospective buyer that was on the fence, and due to world matters and such, and you used the word prioritize, and you helped this client prioritize what his needs were. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's something that I like. Again, you mentioned it in the beginning of the podcast, just listening, really honing in on what's important, to that client. Some people, it's the payments all important. Some people, have only so much money. Some people have certain desires and locations that they want to be in. So we just really need to hone in on what's important to you as a buyer and how I can help you get there, within obviously the guidelines and the rules of mortgages, and all that needs to be considered.
So
But
this sort of dovetails back to your original goal of being a nurse. You sort of diagnose, and
mhm,
then you design a treatment plan, right?
pretty
Instead
much,
of
yes,
dealing with illness, you're dealing with finance and housing and all of that. What
right.
about specialty programs? Talk a little
Mm.
bit about that.
Yeah, there's some specialty programs. I mean, in the mortgage world, we call them non-QM, non-qualified mortgage, but there's specialty programs maybe for, people that are showing not that much income on the tax returns, because obviously if you have a good CPA is going to help you not pay so much in taxes, which then when you go to buy a house, it can be a little bit problematic because now you're not showing enough income. So
Mhm.
if you're a self-employed borrower, or even if you deposit monies, we can use something called a bank statement program. There's still some interest only programs. There's other types of programs, especially when you get into the jumbo realm, when it's not conventional conforming, and
Where does
again,
jumbo
that's based on
start?
county limits. What's that?
Where does jumbo start?
Good question. So it's going to change in 2024, and I always have to remember those. But off the top of my head, it's going to be above 750 now.
Wow.
Anything above 750, it's a different figure. Again, I don't have that
Okay.
memorized just yet, but it's in that realm. It's
But
gone
it's
up a
jumbo.
bit.
It's
What's
jumbo.
that?
It's jumbo.
It's jumbo, which just means it's just a little bit more scrutinized because
Yeah.
more money's being lent.
Sure,
Yeah, right.
sure. And these specialty programs, I'm listening carefully because in my world, I often have one divorcing spouse buying the other one out of their equity interest in the family residence. And
Mhm.
so if they can't qualify to refinance in their own name, or they don't have enough cash to buy the other party out, these specialty programs might come into play, correct?
Possibly. Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly. It's again, we're looking at the big picture, and yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
good to talk through the situation
Yeah,
first.
I got somebody I'm going to send to you this afternoon, actually.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, it
Thank
happens
you.
in my world all the time because
Mhm.
I have a couple right now that I'm working with, and they're going to cohabitate, even though they're going to be divorced until the end of the school year because they want to explore, like you said, prioritizing
Mhm.
what are good school districts for their children to go to if they relocate.
Gotcha.
So yeah, yeah. Um, You also mentioned to me in our quote pre-interview, our lunch, that you deal a lot with investors. What kind of
Right.
investors and what kind of dealings do you do with them?
Oh gosh, anywhere from the first time wanting to dip your toe in the water investor, get another property under your belt. Even I've got people that, they're out of state, they want to buy in certain locations. We lend across the states, but my home base is Las Vegas, so I get a lot of like somebody from California or
Right,
somebody from, that wants to buy in Las Vegas, and maybe they don't
right.
own a home there because it's too expensive, but they want to, have a rental here or a second home. So we do that all the way from, I've got several clients that have 20, 30 properties under their
Wow,
belt and
awesome.
they want to keep buying more. Yeah. So
Well, this has been so fascinating that despite the fact that I told you I'm a stickler for punctuality, we're a minute over 15 minutes. So now I got to change the title of my show. Before we sign off, tell people how they can reach you.
yes, you can find me on several platforms. You can reach me on my office line, 702-395-5474. You can also reach me via email at julie.sanchez@alderis.net. And then I'm also on Instagram at Mortgage Jules, spelled with Juls.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
When we publish the link, we'll put your contact information in it as well. And I so much appreciate. Didn't that 15 minutes, or now it's 16, almost 70 minutes? Didn't that go by fast?
It did.
It
Thank you,
did.
Nancy. Really
Thank
appreciate you.
you. Thank you, Julie. Take care.
Take care.